Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto Two Blue Vortex discussion. And today we gotta talk about how the end of the last chapter gave us the perfect setup for Sarada's Mangekyou Sharingan to be used in the battle against Ryu. Now, I know a lot of you guys are waiting for the chapter review, and really quick update, that is coming. The editor who does those reviews has been working on it since Tuesday night, and because of the early release this month and the full pages dropping a day before the official, that delayed the review, as well as, most importantly, there's a storm that hit my editor's area that shut off the power in his part of the city. The review is at 60% done as of the last update I had from him at 6 a.m. this morning. So if everything goes well, the review will be out tomorrow on the 21st. So I thank you for your patience and your understanding as always. So why is it that I feel so certain that Sarada's Mangekyou Sharingan debut is very close at hand? Well, the last chapter ended in a way where the stakes there are at a boiling point, and the extremely wise decision was made to remove the sword that was introduced as an equalizer that negated the more troublesome aspects of Ryu's power, in particular the use of the Iron Sand to control the bodies using the Iron Sand Puppet Master Jutsu combination that Shinki uses. This moment in Boruto Two Blue Vortex chapter 19, it is the perfect narrative setup for Sarada to finally use a Mangekyou Sharingan in battle for the first time. Let's not only break it down step by step why, but also let's look at the thematic build-up, the strategic necessity, and the potential Buddhist and Shinto inspirations for Sarada's final Mangekyou Sharingan ability. Because as you guys know, as much as you hate to hear it, obviously Susanoo's gonna be one ability, and I strongly believe that Amaterasu is the other, so we're gonna be focusing on that final power that she has. And we're going to be framing everything strictly around how it comes in handy against a battle against Ryu. So some of this information will be new to you, even if you watched the video on Sarada's Mangekyou Sharingan powers that we did on the channel 2 years ago. So let's look at the narrative buildup. Why is now that moment we have to look at? So Sarada's back is against the wall in a way that it mirrors Uchiha moments in the past. It's right there in your face when you really sit down and think about it. So Chidori wasn't enough. Sarada landing a hard-hitting Chidori, but failing to impact in terms of long-lasting damage. That's your direct setup right there, saying that there needs to be more. The other thing you have to look at too is Mitsuki's Sage Mode that also fell short. So when Mitsuki, an advanced fighter using Sage Mode, also struggles with Ryu's ability to disperse into sand, it establishes that the usual means of fighting there are ineffective. This reinforces the necessity of Sarada stepping into a position to tap into a power that can change the tide of battle itself, because Mitsuki had the same problem. He could not do lasting damage to Ryu because of his ability. You also have Konohamaru being in mortal danger. So too often with Uchiha, as we see in the series, they tend to tap into their greatest power in response to high emotional stakes. So at some point, Sarada is going to realize that her former teacher, someone tied to her father's generation, someone who shares the Hokage dream that she has, is on the verge of death. It can be an emotional trigger to get Sarada to push past her limits and use the Mangekyou. The other thing you have to look at here too is that sword being sealed away. That's a game changer. That is the only countermeasure they have to Ryu's Iron Sand. In particular, the manipulation is gone. Sarada is left with no choice but to find an alternative. Mitsuki has used everything he can with Sage Mode. Araya is useless. Yodo has the ability to hear, but she doesn't have high combat ability. This parallels how Uchiha in past battles, often if they had the Mangekyou, had to rely on the Mangekyou as a last resort when all other options were removed. That's what Sarada is currently. This also stays true to the Uchiha curse, using the Mangekyou as a last resort unless you are a bit over-eager like Sasuke was. So the Uchiha clan's greatest strength is really its greatest weakness, the Mangekyou Sharingan. It grants immense power, but it comes at a high cost. Overuse leads to blindness. The fact that Sarada has not used Mangekyou since awakening it means that she is aware of the risk of it. By only bringing out the power now, when all other options have failed, it follows the traditional Uchiha logic for saving it for life or death moments. She is not the flaming idiot that Sasuke was, where say Sasuke is using the Mangekyou Sharingan on some random cloud ninja shinobi when regular Sharingan genjutsu could have been just as effective, but Sasuke, being the raging idiot that he was, decided to use Mangekyou when he didn't need to do so. This also echoes when Sasuke first used Susanoo. So Sasuke first used Susanoo in the 5 Kage summit when fighting multiple Kage level shinobi, when he was in a sense of desperation because his other abilities are failing. Likewise, Sarada, she's being faced into a similar situation here when you look at how she's being forced. This also emphasizes control and strategy over recklessness. Unlike her father, Sarada, by waiting to use this power now, would be shown as being more measured in how she was fighting. Again, I love Sasuke, but Sasuke was reckless with his Mangekyou. It wasn't just the 5 Kage summit. Using her Mangekyou as a last resort, it proves that she is thinking critically and understands calculated risk instead of recklessly burning out her vision. Now, this is where we get into more of the juicier stuff, the Buddhist and Shinto inspirations for Sarada's Mangekyou powers. So the confirmed powers, and we're going to call them confirmed, are Amaterasu, the sun goddess. That's the Shinto influence there. So if Sarada inherits this ability, it could be a powerful tool against Ryu's Iron Sand. Since Amaterasu burns anything it touches, it might prevent Ryu from dispersing his body or reforming. Though based on what we saw with Gaara when Sasuke used it, the regular sand and everything is able to block the Amaterasu. You also have Susanoo, the storm god, and that's also Shinto influence. So that would be likely a defensive power, since Susanoo can protect Sarada's allies from the Claw Grime army and potentially shield Konohamaru for being executed if she can get to him. If her Susanoo has any type of spirit weapons or any type of chakra weapons, it allows her offensive capability as well. The other thing is the possible third power that's going to be inspired by Buddhist and Shintoism, which that's going to be the key here. Sarada's third Mangekyou Sharingan power has to come in clutch, and more than likely than not, if she uses it here, it has to be something suited for countering Ryu's Iron Sand based combat. So you have the Wind God manipulation, in particular the Fujin domain. If her ability is influenced by Fujin, the Japanese god of wind, she could manipulate the air currents to disrupt Ryu's ability to break apart and reform. This would also work like a large-scale vacuum, forcing him to stay in a solid state, which is what that sword was doing. That might be why we saw the sword acting the way that it did. Potential foreshadowing. This also aligns with some of the stuff we saw with Wind Release and how versatile it was, both offensively and defensively. You also have Kukai's Enlightenment. The Buddhist influence here would be void manipulation. Kukai was a Buddhist monk who popularized teachings of the 5 elements. The void element represents pure energy that transcends a maternal form. Sarada's Mangekyou could give her a Ku-based ability that temporarily nullifies the composition of Ryu's Iron Sand, preventing him from reforming. And what's interesting about this is that you could apply this to other things, temporary canceling out of other abilities. And people have theorized that her Mangekyou Sharingan might have briefly broken through omnipotence to make Sasuke see reason briefly. Now, the other thing here, and this is the least sexy one, which is Kagutsuchi's refinement, which Kagutsuchi is fire mastery. It's the Shinto god of fire who is often associated with blacksmiths, in particular, the refinement of materials through flames. If Sarada could shape Amaterasu into precise form, she might be able to trap Ryu's sand in eternal flames, cutting him off for his escape routes when he breaks apart. Now, I know Kagutsuchi is something that is going to piss a lot of people off, and I'm right there with you. If that happens, I'm calling complete bullshit. It would basically be Sasuke's power, since Kagutsuchi is the god that inspired Sasuke's flame control. And this would only be Sarada taking it a step further, and I don't think that would be the best payoff. Now, we also have the one that I am the most excited about, probably the most excited about this as I am with the potential inspiration from Ku. And that's because Sarada's been ridden with aspects of this particular goddess from Shinto, and there's a ton of range with the goddess in general, which is Ameno Usume, which for this, I'll just lock in on the potential linkage to the goddess that applies to this Ryu situation in terms of power. For a full breakdown on Sarada and Ameno Usume, I'll leave a video I did 2 years ago in the description box for you guys to check out. That's very in-depth if you want to learn more about potential powers that come from this goddess, because there's a lot of good stuff there. So a Mangekyou Sharingan ability that is inspired by the Ameno Usume, the Shinto goddess of dawn, mirth, and associated with knowledge. It would be incredibly fitting and a unique power for Sarada, especially in her battle against Ryu. So Ameno Usume is most famous for the myth that was associated with Amaterasu, where she locked herself into a cave. She being Amaterasu, it plunged the world into darkness. In order to lure Amaterasu out, Ameno Usume performed a comedic and provocative dance, and it made all the other gods laugh. This laughter intrigued Amaterasu. It drew her out the cave, and in particular, Ameno Usume had a mirror set up with jewels and etc., and that made Amaterasu captivated enough to look into it, and that caused the light to reflect off of it, and it restored light into the world itself. So this story highlights several aspects of Ameno Usume. So illusion and trickery. She used deception and performance to manipulate a divine entity's actions. The Uchiha clan are mostly associated with what? Yin release. Yin release is associated with genjutsu. So you could have a genjutsu or a reality manipulation power, because that would fall under illusion and trickery. You also have light revelation. Her actions dispelled darkness, bringing back the sun goddess. That kind of ties into the whole thing with Ku that we spoke about earlier. Again, people think that her Mangekyou Sharingan might have had a subconscious effect on Sasuke. They might have briefly pushed back against omnipotence. Obviously not reverse it, because omnipotence is Shinjutsu, and even with Sarada's power, it's still going to be inferior to Shinjutsu by default. You also have divine control over attention and perception. Ameno Usume, in a lot of her stories, dictated the focus of the gods, and in particular Amaterasu. This could be a way to have Sarada dictate the flow of battle. Taking a step further, Sarada's potential Mangekyou Sharingan power, you have a few things that you could look at when you start playing with the Japanese lettering. So you could have the Usume no Mai, which is the dance of the whirling woman, a Mangekyou Sharingan ability that manipulates perception and awareness, forcing enemies to perceive false realities while controlling their actions through deception. That's a real thing. How would this help against Ryu? So disrupting his sand body mechanics would be how it's done. Ryu's main advantage is his ability to disperse into iron sand grains and reform elsewhere. With Usume no Mai, Sarada would be able to manipulate his perception of his own body, making him believe that he was reformed in one place when he's actually remained dispersed, or vice versa. This could allow her to trick him into reforming into a vulnerable spot, exposing him to a fatal attack. Very similar strategy to what Sasuke did with Danzo, and he placed Danzo under the genjutsu. This could also force Ryu into dropping his defenses, just like how Ameno no Usume lured Amaterasu out of the cave. Sarada could use this ability to bait Ryu into lowering his guard. By altering his senses, she would be able to make him believe that she's attacking from one angle while the real attack is coming from another. This is partly the inspiration that you saw with Aizen and Bleach. If you know what I'm referring to, you know what I'm referring to. Now, the other thing is that this could also counter his Claw Grime army. Since Ryu summoned an army of Claw Grime, Sarada could use this ability to confuse them, making them turn on each other or attack in an empty space. She could also manipulate the perception of her allies, making them seem invisible or in different locations, which would offer protection to them. It could also lead to aiding in Konohamaru's rescue. If Sarada perceives Matsuri is about to kill Konohamaru, Usume no Mai could momentarily trick Matsuri into seeing Konohamaru is already dead and eaten, making her drop her guard. This would give Sarada or another ally the opportunity to save Konohamaru, even Konohamaru save himself. The mechanics of Usume no Mai under all of this will basically come down to illusionary perception control. Unlike standard genjutsu, this ability doesn't just trap someone in a hallucination, it would subtly rewrite their perception of reality in real time. Remember what Amato said, all shinjutsu is the true version of any type of ninjutsu, genjutsu, and taijutsu that we see. This would be something that is a watered down version of omnipotence that we saw. Only because Uchiha has strong yin release properties, this would be a better controlled version of a genjutsu. Just as Itachi could control the things inside of Tsukiyomi, this would take that onto a different level. It also potentially would not require direct eye contact because this ability could work within a certain range based on the stories we have with Ameno Uzume, which would make it more flexible than traditional Uchiha Genjutsu. This would create temporary false actions. Sarada could make Ryu believe that he is executing one action, an example attacking Sarada, when in reality his body remains still or performs a different movement. The reason why this power fits Sarada so perfectly is that it ties into Amaterasu and the Uchiha legacy. Since Sarada likely already has access to Amaterasu, giving her a power linked to Ameno Uzume, the one who lured Amaterasu out, it adds a poetic connection. It would also make her Mangekyou Sharingan powers uniquely hers, separating her from Sasuke's abilities. It would also align with Sarada's strategic mind state. Unlike going with brute force like Madara, though Madara was calculated, or having to worry about the eye itself burning out the way that Itachi was, Sarada, when you really look at it, she's been measured and analytical in her battle approach. She has not been overusing the Mangekyou. A power based on perception and manipulation, it would highlight her intelligence rather than having her have to rely on overpowered destructive capability. This balances offense and support. This ability could be used to set up devastating attacks and help allies escape danger. It wouldn't be purely defensive like a Susanoo or purely offensive like an Amaterasu. It would be a battlefield control power, which that would suit Sarada's Hokage aspiration. If Sarada's third Mangekyou Sharingan ability is inspired by Ameno Uzume, then Uzume no Mai would be the perfect battle power that she could use. It would allow her to counter Ryu's Iron Sand attacks, escape tricks, manipulate his perception to force him into vulnerabilities, and aid into rescuing Konohamaru, and it would be something versatile enough she could use it in other fights. Most importantly, it would give her a unique power that fits her personality, reinforcing her identity as a different kind of Uchiha, one who wins battles not through overwhelming force, but through wit, deception, and tactical brilliance. In conclusion, I'll finish up and I'll say this. This is a defining moment for Sarada. This battle isn't just about winning. It's about Sarada proving herself in a high-stakes situation. Her use of the Mangekyou right now would show her progression as a fighter who calculates her risk, establish her as a force to be reckoned with, cementing her near the top of this new generation. She's already near the top, but this would make it irrefutable. Potentially introduce a new ability that is uniquely hers and thematically tied into Amaterasu and Buddhism and Shinto concepts. The worst thing you can do right now is have Kawaki swoop in and have Kawaki save the day. That's gonna, in my opinion, hurt everyone that is there, even though I have this nagging feeling in my gut that this might be the case. While her allies are struggling, the battlefield is in chaos, and Konohamaru is on the verge of death. This is the perfect moment for Sarada to make her Mangekyou Sharingan's combat debut. Even though my gut says this is going to be another Team 10 and Kakashi versus Kakuzu moment, and just how Naruto showed up, I could see Kawaki showing up. I hope I'm wrong with that, and I am curious to know how you guys feel about this. And obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and clicking here on the left to check out more videos from Naruto Explained, or click over here on the right to check out videos from my Anime Explained channel, where I talk about non-Naruto content in the form of video essays, chapter reviews, discussions, explained videos, and so much more.